All right, good people. So this is your sister Jamaica of All Things Kingdom by Jamaica. This is part 2 of my video as to when God tells you to leave your job. Again, disclaimer: this is serious business. We're not talking about my life being your life, but we have to be in tune with the voice of God and God's will, and not his permissive will, but his divine will that he has for our lives. And so that's why I'm coming to testify to you, because I know as you saw in part 1, hopefully you saw part 1. If you haven't, go back and check it out. But in part 1, God told me I was leaving my job, and it was a job that I had begged God for. I knew it was a great opportunity. I knew it was a challenge that I wanted to try to meet. And 4 years ago, God gave it to me. He gave me the opportunity. I had always been blessed with great jobs. In the last 15 years, I have worked in affordable housing, and I kind of just jumped into it. It was something that an opportunity when I came out of college just happened, and I just thought, whoa, this must be the career path for me, because it just kind of happened. But along the way, God showed me some things. There were some tests and some trials and some things that I learned on those jobs, but that was not necessarily what God had in mind for me to do. I am called to the marketplace. I know that is definitely a part of my God-given call, meaning I'm called to go into the 7 mountains, one or some of the 7 mountains that you will hear many times in the world: education, business. You hear a lot of entrepreneurs, industry, music industry, different things, where God will use you in these industries that exist in every society. There's nothing like being able to be impactful in things that the whole world experiences. And so I am definitely called to the marketplace. I'm a minister in the gospel, but I also know that God has called me to understand and operate in a ministry of deliverance as well, and healing. And so what happens with that is you get to learn a lot of things about life. You get to learn a lot of things about hurts and hangups, about oppressions of life, about attacks on life. And so in that, when you're called to the marketplace, it does not just close off. You don't get to just say, okay, I'm a banker from 8 to 5. I'm going to just go do this banking business, and then afterwards, God can use me for his ministry. No, he's always going to show you different things, even on your job. He'll show you areas that you are to pray for. He'll bring opportunities for you to even speak to somebody, or he'll send somebody to you many times that just need encouragement. And he'll have you in that particular place to do that particular work. Amen. And so with that, in April, God told me, I had known from the beginning of the year that there was going to be some type of transition. I just didn't know exactly what it was going to be. I was comfortable. I was making a great salary. My bills were being paid. It was great. Everything was on auto pay. You know, when you're on auto pay, that means you're living in the abundance, because you're not worried about the money coming out. And so I was in a really good place financially, stable-wise. I was preparing to be married. All these things were awesome. Like, things were great. I just found that the grace lifted off of me at the job. I was a director, and when you're leading people, there's a grace that comes with that. I don't care what anybody says. There's a grace that comes with leading people. You can do the work, but if you don't have the grace to do certain things and to be impactful and to lead and to influence, you can forget it. It'll be like trying to, you're taking 2 steps and 1 step backwards. You always feel like you're not progressing. And I felt the grace lift off of me. The things that I used to do that were so easy for me to do, I used to do it in my sleep. I found it to be begrudging and very difficult. I found it to be a very hard environment to be in, because there was a zealousness that no longer was there. Literally, the grace just lifted. And I said, what is going on? But I said, I know I can't move, because this is my sustainability. This is my job. I don't understand, like, what's happening. And God was silent in those moments. I want to tell you, when you're in major transition and God is preparing something, do not be afraid when he gets silent at times. Many times when he gets silent, it's because he needs you to start getting more still. And he's actually not being silent. It's because it's you moving a lot and you're not able to hear him. And so in those moments, I've learned that when I feel he's silent, it's time for me to draw back and to draw closer. And so that's what I began began to do. I started being more quiet, starting to listen more, starting to pray more, starting to have desire more intimate moments so that I can hear. And one day in April, I went to the library, and God told me, this is the day that we're going to write our resignation. And I know the voice of God. I'm very clear on the voice of God. And so I knew it was him, but I didn't want to accept it. But I did it. I didn't want to accept it in my heart, but I did the action. I typed the letter, and God told me exactly what to say. It was the strangest thing. Had me asking for things that I thought you would think that they were asking me to leave or something with these things I'm asking for. But I am resigning, and in good standing. There were no issues. There were no there's no, I wasn't on the verge of being fired or anything like that. It was in good condition. And so when I got the message from God to do my letter, I did it, and I asked for exactly what he told me to ask for. Excuse me, y'all. This video, I'm gonna try to break it up, but it's gonna be a little bit long. And to ask for exactly what I asked for, and that's what I did. So I submitted it, and they told me to think about it. So I came back again, asked the Lord, what am I doing? And he said, sorry, y'all. And the Lord said, yeah, you're submitted. I told you we're leaving. And so I submitted it, and I gave them about a month's notice, an additional month's notice after I initially told them I was desiring to resign. And so I had a month, and that month was difficult. I cannot tell you the attacks that came, and I'm talking about spiritual attacks. I cannot tell you the level of worry and doubt and wavering that came. Fear came. And I was in the midst of getting married. My wedding was in July, and all that was happening around that time. So many things I started struggling with. I started battling, and I didn't feel like I was winning the war. I felt like, oh God, did I make a mistake? Was this an error? Because why is all this attacks coming when I'm doing what God told me to do? And then I thought about it. The attacks are coming because you did what God told you to do. Duh. Like, duh. You know when there's a donkey in the road that's speaking to you that tells you to stop, that's scripture. You know that's when it's God telling you stop and halt, versus God doesn't bring fear to you. God doesn't bring anxiety to you. God does not bring double-mindedness. Listen, were you one day, are you sure? The next minute you're not. Listen, I had to call down all types of stuff. Listen. And so I endured. I continued. God did not tell me where we were going. I'm like, I know I'm called to the marketplace, Lord. You've spoken that to me many a times. I know that you don't want, I know there's other things that I aspire to do, other entrepreneurial things that I do, but I know that you desire for me to be in the marketplace. God had told me a while back that I would be a change agent. And so I know that you're not going to just allow me to stay in this one place of comfort for me, that you're going to require something of me. And so, but he never told me where we were going. And it was the most, it was a difficult place. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I have had to walk in some faith walks with God, but this was the greatest faith walk of my life, where I did not know what was going to happen on July 27th when I walked out of that office. I had no idea what was going to happen. And so that's what happened. July 27th, I walked out of the office, finished my tour, and it was done. And the weight that fell off of me when I left out the door, I cannot even explain it to you. It had nothing to do with the job. It had nothing to do with the people. It had nothing to do with the environment. It had everything to do with the obedience. When you are obedient, you will feel it. You will feel God's grace just fall on you to have you keep going and to allow you to walk in peace. And so I walked out, and then I said, all right, Lord, what next? And my natural mind told me, start looking for a job. I'm like, but that wouldn't be God. That wouldn't, for me to start looking for a job, that just doesn't seem like what God would want me to do if he had me leave so abruptly. Like, this was a serious thing. So why would he just want me to look for a job? But my natural mind kicked in, and I started looking for a job. And so when I started looking for a job, I I ran across two specific positions. I was sending my resume to any and everybody. I was like, I'll be an office assistant. I would love to just sit in a corner and answer phones and help somebody fax and file. That is not what God has called me to do. But I was like, maybe he just calling me to just be easy now. Let me just take a step back. I won't be in a leadership position anymore. You know what? I'll take a rest from that. I'll work in the mailroom or something. I'm not belittling these positions. I'm just telling you what my thought process was, stepping back from all the things that I had known and the position that I had been put in before. I was like, let me just take a break. Let me pump my brakes from there. And I was applying for all these positions and I was getting no callbacks. It was only a month's time. But one day I got on the computer and I wasn't looking for the job. I wasn't looking for it, and it was in my inbox. And I had been telling God, I want to operate in my purpose each and every day. I want to be able to serve those that he sent me to in every waking hour of my life. And that included the marketplace, but I never thought of how I could do this. And so at that time, another job was in my inbox as well, and it was in the same area of housing that I had worked in for the last 15 years. That was the comfort. And then here comes this job that was presented that was completely in alignment with my request to God to be working toward and helping those that he has called me to in life. And that was those who are survivors of sex trafficking. God had told me about 7 years ago at a conference. I went to a TD Jakes conference and a woman was talking about sex trafficking, and I had never heard about it. I had never believed that it was something that existed other than, something in the movies. And when she said it, it struck in my heart. It was a seed was planted in my heart from that moment forward, and I was going to help in some way. And so I opened up an online store to help raise money for those who needed it, gave to these local charities, did all types of stuff, got educated on it, went to conferences, workshops, you name it, all outside of my job. I would go on the weekends. I would go in the evenings. I would do all types of stuff to learn about this charge that God had given me of these people that I would serve. And so here we go. This position is in my inbox, and it is exactly what I had asked God for. And I was afraid. I was afraid to apply because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe this is not housing. This is totally in alignment with my God-given purpose. And it's in my inbox. And so in that moment, I applied to it, but I also applied for the housing position as well, just for that comfort zone. It was there, and I figured, why not? I'll just go into housing again, and I'll do it in a different way. And so I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to give you part 3, but I want you to know what happened when after I applied for those 2 positions, because guess what? Those 2 positions offered me the position and the job. But stay tuned to find out exactly what I did. It's now August 28th, which is almost a exact month from the moment that I resigned from my position. And so I want to keep you abreast as to the journey and what's happening next. But can I tell you, this is a God thing. This is not a good in mind any longer. This is a great and divine. And so God bless you. Stay tuned for part 3. Take care.